Right, we're back for another repair. My fingers are looking forward to something to do. Well, we've got a couple things to do. But the first one, we're going to do a 2-for-1 video. The first thing we're going to do is this. My apprentice got gifted some Nintendo memorabilia by a friend. And she's given it a bit of a hard life. And this is a little LED lamp that lights up very dimly at night. You can probably almost see that if I do it here with the overhead lights off. This one pretty much still functions. I think we just need to put some super glue in. So I've got myself some good Loctite brand super glue, which I generally keep in the fridge. This is really good stuff. This is similar to Loctite 406, which is what I used to use for gluing hearing aids back together. So I think we're going to put a couple of drops of super glue in this and see if we can slot it back together. It is originally designed, I think, under here to just friction fit with these little clips, but there is evidence of a little blob of glue in there. So let's try and put this back together. Where's a fresh tube of super glue? It's always good. Now I need to see if I've got the nipple right without getting this in my eyes. Now I'm going to, at this point, run some extraction fan, because super glue fumes are nasty, and they also stick to fingerprints, which is actually interestingly how our forensics experts get fingerprints off a lot of different materials through the use of super glue vapor. Super glue actually was originally designed as a field dressing for improvised stitches. There is actually still versions of super glue, or formulations rather, that are sold for that very purpose. Now at this point, while it's gaining a bit of moisture, I need to grab some tweezers and help insert these cables back into the base. This is going to be the tricky bit, and it's sliding around because there's no weight in it, so we'll stick it down with blue tack, and let's bring this camera angle around slightly and try and put these in. I hope you guys can see what I'm doing. It's really an awkward angle. There we go. There we go, and it's gone in, and I'm going to hold that for a few seconds and let it set. Okay, so we've fitted in nicely. I'll give this overnight to cure a little bit more. This isn't very bright, partly because she leaves these things on all night, so I put the batteries that are too flat to run high current stuff, but not flat enough to not power an LED. I put them in this thing, and that'll be Tinkerman Mick. So yeah, once this is set, I'll give it back to my apprentice. Now let's get on to the next bit of the video. Okay, the next bit. Now this is kind of what inspired the donations to my apprentice, was her Nintendo 64. But like corded mice, she is a little rough on them. Though to her credit, the cable grade on these isn't great. But if we get close up here, we can probably see that one of the conductors is actually broken. And this is her favourite one she got for Christmas. And we're only looking like the 11th of February here. It didn't take her too long, but a lot longer than we expected. So I've got to open this up, which is an aftermarket one. It's not a genuine, so I'm not too worried about that. We're going to open this up and yeah, just bring that cable up and reattach it. Right, and just like that, all the screws magically flew out onto the magnet. Now this one's never been opened before. I don't know how easy it will be to get open. Apparently not too hard. And the Z switch is actually retained from a little hinge in the back of the case, which is nice. I see how these aftermarket sticks are actually installed. I've got another one of these I bought to replace one for the original controllers, and they've got 3 wires. I assume one's a ground, but I see how they've done it here. I might be able to take some tips for this while I'm in here. But my main purpose is to fish this cable out and do a chop and join. So yeah, and I'll be doing that, and I'll probably add some, either a spring, some heat shrink, or maybe both, to add some strain relief to that. So let's, where's my flush cutters gone? I'm in the middle of a conversation with somebody here too at the same time, so we will be a little bit fragmented. Alright, so I'll get this piece out. I'll leave enough here that I can identify what wires are where. Put them off to the side. We'll disassemble the rest of this and get to the back of the board. So we've got the board out, and these ones use the membrane pads with carbon rubber pads. And these look like the carbon rubber pads stuck on there, that very similar to the ones I've got in a repair kit. So this should be enough for me to remove the old wires here. I'm going to take a photo in a moment and make sure I've got them correct. There's really only 3 wires here, so there's not too much to be worried about. Alright, let's get these out. Okay, so I've got the soldering iron warming up in the background here. First thing I'm going to do is put a bit of fresh solder on these, which are done pretty horribly, definitely hand soldered here. My iron's not quite hot enough, but I'm going to try and just reflow those, retin them, put a bit of lead solder back in there, because that's probably lead free stuff. And my iron's nice and warm. Let's go and get these hot. Okay, now I'm just going to apply a bit of gentle pressure, which, owing to my dexterity right now, needs to be with a pair of pliers. I'm just going to lay across all 3 of these, being careful of the surface mounts. So get all 3. I believe I did. Alright, now I'm going to need a little bit of solder wick. Now again, I need to be careful of the surface mount components nearby. We have more messages right as I'm doing fiddly things. We need to certainly put a bit more heat through this solder wick, and I need to hold it a bit further up. Because A, I don't want to melt a surface mount off, and B, I don't want to burn my fingers. And now I've got it stuck to the board, yay. Come on. You can tell I'm not as experienced with solder wick as I am with the desoldering tool, or a solder sucker as some of you guys call it. Oh, hot fingers. We're almost there. I think what I need to do is put a little bit of fresh solder on there, just to help conduct the heat a little better. Let's go along here and pickle this up. I should have tacked this board down too. Well, now I filled in another one. We'll be back in a moment. Okay, and we actually managed it in the end. Alright, so the next job I need is to spread my 3 wires out. Nothing terribly fancy about that. Unless you've got a special fancy tool for doing that, which I'm going to make use of right here. I need to adjust my set point back a little bit. Wonderful bit of gear, that one. We'll just separate our strain relief cords out of the way, and we'll do that. It's this point where I thread a spring and some heat shrink on, so we'll get to that bit. Okay, so I've got my my spring and my heat shrink inserted, ready to go. But I'm just trying to like twist and tin this wire, and I'll put my hand in front of the camera here for a bit so that autofocus handles this a little better. This wire is nasty. There's I don't know if you can see this, but there's strands of other stuff in there. You know, let's get the microscope out and we'll look at it under that. The microscope here, going to click on, and now we're recording. I think this is focus here. Let's have a look at what's going on here. So actually I think we need to come down in focus a bit. We need to drop this way down. So let me adjust this. We'll go way down up close, way down up. That's like Aussie yeah nah. Let's focus in here. Let's have a look at the end of one of these cables here. Alright, so we've got several strands of copper, and then we've got some fibre stuff in here as well, fibre reinforcing. And of course what that means is no matter what you do to this stuff, when you twist it, it just springs back out again. Oh, that is nasty. That's a cheat's way of doing it. Oh, and it's like solid copper. That's probably why it busts so easy too. It's fairly thick conductors, so they're just... that's the way I make it. That's like that's pretty much packing to make the cable look and feel thicker than it really is. That's the cheatiest way of things doing of it. There. I am so frustrated by that. I am at a loss for words. That is cheap, cheap, cheap cable. Oh, nasty stuff. Alright. Well, let's tin this stuff and see if I can get it through the holes when I'm done. I'm almost prepared at this stage to actually salvage the plug off the other end if that's possible, and just simply run a new wire all of my own. I'll get some nice industrial grades microphone cable or something. My ventilation's not working right, it's gone straight back in my face. Well, it looks like the surface tension of the solder pulled everything together, and the solder's melted off the that reinforcing stuff. But plastic inside, it can't be good for your soldering iron. Alright, let's get these slotted back in the correct hole. This bit is going to be quite a tricky task to perform, so I'm going to open yet more blue tack. I think I should get shares in this company, in 3M. I know it's Bostik makes this. Well, I just advertised 2 companies that don't sponsor me. Doing well here. So I'm going to put a little bit of this blue tack here. Now, from my picture, I believe black goes in the end here. I'll stick that down, that should hold it in situ. Now, I know originally they'd folded these over, and it looks like it was close to shorting to another track. So we are going to try and get one in there just to hold everything in. And I need my tweezers again. Tweezers. Now, I think it was black, white, red, I believe was the order this was in, but I'm going to have to check, which means I need to stop my phone, aka camera, and check the photo I took earlier, just to be sure. Okay, let's do that. White did indeed go in the center, so we're positioned properly. Let's get some more deadly lead and get this in here. Doing this at a bit of a funny angle for the sake of the camera doesn't make the actual task of soldering this in cleanly very easy, but it's got to be slightly better than what it was when we started. So let's go and get through here, poke it through the hole. That'll be our red, and then we'll double check all my photos again and make it doubly sure to be sure. Now, I'm not happy with a couple of those. I just want to clean that up a little bit. You know what? I don't think I'm going to mess with it. I'm going to hit it with a little bit of circuit board cleaner, and we should be right. And we'll give it a quick little scrub. Yeah. I'm running a little bit low on this stuff at the moment. Need to get off my ass and get that Patreon channel happening. If anybody's going to be silly enough to fund me, although I will be offering access to some of my plans and designs and stuff, you will actually get your money's worth for something. Probably more than a pay-to-play game anyway, or play-to-win game. Alright, anyway, let's get this reassembled slightly, and I'll stop for a pause in between those steps. A little trick when you're reassembling stuff like this. A little blob of blue tack in these corners here can help hold really like tiny parts that are you have to place very precariously in order to assemble. So we need to put our Z button back in place here. But what it does mean, if I gently bump everything, those little pedals don't just drop out on me. I'm not sure how this is actually, which way around this is actually meant to go in here, but some pretty poor tolerances in these designs too, so well, I think actually it might mean to go like that. That's how I think it should be. That's popped out of its position. I'll reposition that with the blue tack again. And now this is the bit I need to do. I need to route this through the strain relief path, which means I need to juggle my spring and my heat shrink around. So we'll get that situated and we'll be back. So I've got things mostly positioned here, and I have the spring hiding inside the heat shrink. I'm going to put the first 2 loops or 2 coils of the spring inside this little receptacle here, so it closes down really tightly and hopefully gives it some room to move. And what I've also done here is put a little extra loop under here so that when it flexes, it's got a little bit to pull inwards and outwards in here, and it can slide through that spring rather than being fixed and clamped down in that spot. I'm hoping, and this is a technique I've used in the past, I'm hoping that will help it. So let's see how we go. Okay, so we've got it largely assembled now, and you can see if I pull out here there is a spring underneath this. Now in practice I found the spring didn't totally solve this problem, so I'm adding some heat shrink here all the way up to the base of that just to stiffen the spring slightly, and I'm going to remove my extraction fan here. Sorry, I'm doing a lot of this on the fly here, and I'm going to use my heat gun for this one because a gas lighter is going to be too easy to damage this plastic with. So I've got to get that set up. And I have a fairly small attachment on the heat gun here. I need to actually go, where are we? Soldering station, SMD rework station. I think they mean heat gun. Alright, this is set quite hot. My UPS does not like this thing. It exceeds the recommended limit of the UPS just a few %. But we're not doing this for too long. We're just going to heat shrink this down here and right up to the base there. Hopefully that should create a bit of a strain relief that should stop the abuse of the control happening so badly. Alright, I think we're done. Let's go test this. Right, now it's smoke test time. Let's plug in and let's switch our TV channel and or our input rather, and see if we can get some activity out of this control. So let's turn on with our modded blue LED, just because I had to. Now we should see some AV in a minute. Well, nothing smoked just yet, and we're on our EverDrive 64 cartridge there too. So let's go an ED64. So far things are working. Oh, I've got some SRAM saves here too. Let's go back. N64 ROMs. Let's pick something crazy. I'm just going to pick something random in here. Well, I've just happened, well, I was on Mario Kart for a minute there. Let's try Mario Kart. Everybody knows Mario Kart. I'll just run this through and, hey, I'm in the reflection in the background. Our TV is very reflective because I've put this 3mm acrylic in front to stop all the projectiles that my apprentice discharges. Well, the start button works. Wait. Start button is actually, my start button is jammed. Yeah, I'm going to have to reassemble that. Yeah, I haven't actually pushed start at all. Well, I've only just got to barely just touch this. Yeah, I think, yeah, start button's jammed. Okay, I've got to disassemble this and fix that. This is going to be a slightly difficult angle, but luckily you can hold an N64 control one-handed. Now all I did was take 2 screws in the back here and loosen them a quarter turn. Now my start button works really well now. Apparently not much else does. Yeah, I'm waiting for controller number 1 here. Because apparently I'm on 2-player. That one works. Now I've got one. Now I've got control back again. Try that one. Did I go back? Select that. Select that. Yep, grab whatever we can. See how we go. I think I can use Z button on this to drive. It's been a while. No, apparently I can't. What is the go button for this again? Hang on, I think because I'm in 1-player mode, I've got to use this one. Yep, I think that's the problem. I think I better change this to controller port 1. Let's pause it for a minute and change controls. Before I finish, I have to give this back to my apprentice who's just climbed out of the bath. You're not going to get to see her on camera. Here you go, apprentice.
Thank you.
That's your mushroom back.
Yeah, you fixed it.
And she's just heard Mario Kart.
It looks like
we're back in port 1 and we're the only controller. So let's restart here and let's try this. Yeah, we're certainly moving alright. And this TV does not like composite signals the way an N64 gives it. The output on this is actually quite clean on a lot of TVs, just not this one. So the problem is the TV, not the 64. I have chased that up. Well, it does appear that we've got all our buttons and everything working. If I go, where are we? Left button, then tap right button. I've got to get this right. I think I can get a console command up from the ED64 that lets me save SRAM. Anyway, but overall this seems to be working, so I think we'll call this finished. We're right. I'm gonna muck around in this for a bit because I like this one. Who doesn't like Mario Kart?